Hello and welcome to CVR News Network. You are watching CVR English World 360 and these are the details. The major story of the day is the global stock market plunging. Global stock markets continued to plunge on Monday following US tariff hikes announced on April 2nd, which Donald Trump called it as a Liberation Day. Asian markets mirror Wall Street's sharp Friday losses, with Japan's Nikkei falling 8.84% to a 52-week low. Taiwan's TAIEX plunging 9.8% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng dropped 9.28%. China's Shanghai Composite lost 4.21%, while South Korea's Kospi declined 4.8%. Indian stock market witnessed one of its worst trading sessions in the recent years on Monday as fears of an escalating trade war and a global economic slowdown, sparked by recent US tariff hikes, rattled investors worldwide. At closes, the benchmark indices BSE Sensex and Nifty 50 were down by about 3% each. Sensex settled down at 73,137.90, down by 2,227 points, while Nifty settled at 22,242.30, down by 662 points. Investors lost nearly 13 lakh crore as the total market capitalization of BSE listed firms slumped from rupees 403.5 lakh crores on Friday to 390.7 on Monday. The BSE Sensex has plunged over 4,000 points to hit a low of 71,725, while the Nifty 50 tumbled nearly 1,150 points to 21,744 in early trading. The broader market saw even steeper declines, with the BSE mid-cap and small-cap indices crashing up to 10% in pre-opening deals. China accuses the United States of serving its own selfish interests with its massive tariffs program announced by President Donald Trump, adding this is typical unilateralism, protectionism, and economic bullying. China on Friday said it would impose a retaliatory levies of 34% on all U.S. goods from April 10th.
美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益，服务一己之私，将美国优先凌驾于国际规则之上，是典型的单边主义、保护主义和经济。美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益，服务一己之私，将美国优先凌驾于国际规则之上，是典型的单边主义、保护主义和经济。美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益，服务一己之私，将美国优先凌驾于国际规则之上，是典型的单边主义、保护主义和经济。美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益，服务一己之私，将美国优先凌驾于国际规则之上，是典型的单边主义、保护主义和经济。美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益，服务一己之私，将美国优先凌驾于国际规则之上，是典型的单边主义、保护主义和经济。美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益，服务一己之私，将美国优先凌驾于国际规则之上，是典型的单边主义、保护主义和经济。美国以对等为名，行霸权之实，牺牲各国的正当利益。
World leaders have expressed strong reactions to U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of reciprocal tariffs on multiple countries. Several top officials have criticized the move, calling it a harmful step towards trade destabilization. While some nations plan retaliatory measures, others seek dialogue to mitigate economic damage. The global community urges the U.S. to reconsider the policy, emphasizing the importance of international cooperation and trade fairness.
This is Liberation Day.
Is a major blow.
We will impose a 25% tariff.
Nobody wins in a trade war.
From the United States, that's tough.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. Effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. You bring it up, Howard. This is our great Secretary of Commerce. So, if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers.
President Trump's announcement of universal tariffs on the whole world, including the European Union, is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism.
Nobody wins in a trade war. That is not in our national interest. We have a fair and balanced trade relationship with the US. Negotiations on an economic prosperity deal, one that strengthens our existing trading relationship. They continue, and we will fight for the best deal for Britain.
I consider the U.S. President's latest tariff decisions to be fundamentally wrong. This is an attack on a trade order that has created prosperity all over the world. A trade order that is essentially the result of American endeavors. The entire global economy will suffer from these ill-considered decisions. Companies and consumers all over the world, including in the USA. The decision announced last night was both brutal and unfounded. Unfounded because you don't correct trade imbalances by putting tariffs in place. The basics of economic theory show the opposite. particle Arley as the imbalance doesn't take into account services, including digital services to cite just one, if not others.
Strengthen and expand domestic manufacturing for the internal vehicle market, reinforcing innovation, research and development, and energy efficiency. We have the plan. We have spoken with the automotive industry. The objective is for most of the vehicles consumed in Mexico to be manufactured in our country, in dialogue with the different countries of the world.
What's going on with the tariffs, and we got, as you know, the auto tariffs this week from the United States, that's tough. That's tough. But this is an enormous opportunity for this company, for this country, and I think ultimately for America.
Our country has been the largest global investor in the United States.
US President Donald Trump has compared tariffs imposed on the countries across the globe by him as medicine, adding that he is not intentionally creating a market sell-off. More than 50 countries have approached the White House to begin trade talks, President Trump's top economic advisor revealed. The countries are angry and retaliating, and by the way, coming to the table. Kevin Hassett, the White House National Economic Council director, said as officials attempted to defend Trump's economic policy.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world.
Is there pain in the market? At some point, you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think I don't want anything to go down. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry said that the market has spoken when asked about the tariffs. What do you make of that?
The market has spoken when they look at the fact that we have $1 billion trade deficit. When you look at the trade deficit that we have with certain countries, way over $1 billion per country. But with China, it's $1 trillion. And we have to solve our trade deficit with China. We have $1 trillion trade deficit with China. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China. And unless we solve that problem, I'm not going to make a deal. Now, I'm willing to deal with China, but they have to solve their surplus. We have a tremendous deficit problem with China. They have a surplus of at least $1 trillion a year. I think it's like $1.1 trillion. And I want that solved. And so China is, they say the market's spoken. China is right now taking a big hit because everyone knows we're right.
Were there any deals made?
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses or we're at worst going to be breaking even. We've been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen.
Europe, is that a place you'd like to also get to?
Well, the problem is that Europe has made a fortune with us. Europe also has had a tremendous surplus with the United States. Europe has treated us, it's a little smaller, but they've treated us very, very badly. China has, but Europe has also. Europe has been very, very bad to us. Europe has taken our leaders for a ride. They don't take our cars. They don't take our food products. They don't take anything. I think there's not going to be, I don't think inflation's going to be a big deal because if you look at me, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not new to me. I took in during my 4 years hundreds of billions of dollars from China. And we also took in a lot of money from other countries, but in particular China, because it was just getting started. And we had no inflation. And we're the piggy bank. We have all the advantages. Forget markets for a second. We have all the advantages. We'll get it straight out. We're going to become a wealthy nation again. Wealthy like never before. And we're not going to let others.
Pope Francis on Sunday made his first public appearance since being discharged from hospital 2 weeks ago after a treatment for double pneumonia, entering St. Peter's Square at the Vatican in a wheelchair to greet the crowd. Francis, 88, had been out of public view since March 23rd, when he had given a short greeting before leaving to Rome's Gemelli Hospital after more than 5 weeks of treatment in the most serious health crisis of the 12-year papacy. The Pope, in a previously unannounced move, came out to the square shortly before noon at the end of the celebration of the Mass for the Catholic Church Jubilee year. Coming in front of the main altar for the service in bright sunshine, Francis waved to the crowds before speaking briefly. "Happy Sunday to everyone," the Pope said, speaking in a fine voice while receiving oxygen via a small hose under his nose. He finally greeted everybody. "Thank you so much."
Il Signore sia con voi. Di Dio Onnipotente, Padre, Figlio e Spirito Santo discenda su di voi e con voi rimanga per sempre. Dio Onnipotente, fa che rimaniamo sempre.
No.
Buona domenica a tutti, grazie tante.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departed for his visit to Washington, D.C. for a key meet with President Donald Trump. Speaking about his visit, Netanyahu stated the tariffs and the Gaza situation are going to be the key agendas in the high-stake meeting.
I am finishing a very important visit in Hungary. Hungary is a very good friend of Israel that defends us in the European Union and in the United Nations, and moreover defends us in front of the corrupt International Criminal Court at The Hague that targets us all, including Israeli soldiers, commanders, and is trying to take away our right to defend ourselves. Hungary is the first country to resign from the ICC. It is a sign of more to come and a great help to Israel. We spoke about cooperating in regards to military armaments that we need in order to press on and achieve complete victory in the Seven Front Army. And of course, we also spoke about the Hungarian hostage, Omri Moran, and various important subjects to the State of Israel. I depart to the United States to meet with President Trump to discuss.
They want to attack Ukraine's Zelensky makes a bold statement, fires Putin, questions Russia and US. In a statement on Telegram, Zelensky said two priorities were being coordinated, a defense, specifically Patriots, and deployment coordination, pushing for the closest possible decisions and working through all details. He added that he had also directed efforts to work bilaterally, especially with the United States, which has the capacity to help store any terror.
This is objective reality. All agreements reached with our partners that have not been carried out yet need to be maximally activated. Patriots which at this time stand idle at our partners' warehouses should be protecting lives. It is also worthwhile to produce air defense systems and missiles for them much more actively in Europe and America. We in Ukraine can ensure such production and need appropriate political decisions. Localization, appropriate licenses is what will help not only us but all partners. Everyone that wants peace, not war. Missiles launched from the Black Sea were among weapons used in today's attack. Our allies know which vessels and which part of the sea they were launched from. This is one of the reasons why Russia abuses diplomacy, why Russia doesn't agree to unconditional ceasefire.
Thousands of passionate supporters of Marine Le Pen railed in the heart of Paris, voicing strong opposition to what they call a political decision against her. Le Pen denounces the ruling as anti-democratic, sparking massive demonstrations. Le Pen allies claim this is an attack on democracy. Despite mounting pressures, Le Pen remains defiant.
Date sombre dans l'histoire de France. Et c'est la... Avec cette décision, il ne cherche pas seulement à interdire Marine d'être candidate.
C'est pourquoi il faut arrêter de nous reprocher de critiquer une décision de justice. Ce n'est pas une décision de justice, c'est une décision politique. Voilà donc qu'il faudrait m'éliminer de la vie politique, sans voie de recours possible, au nom d'un soi-disant trouble à l'ordre public démocratique, concept purement et simplement inventé pour l'occasion. Pardon, mais le principal et même l'unique trouble à l'ordre public démocratique, c'est bien celui qui consiste à empêcher l'unique souverain, le peuple, de s'exprimer. C'est pourquoi j'affirme que cette décision politique a non seulement bafoué l'état de droit, mais aussi l'état de démocratie.
T'inquiète, Madame Le Pen.
United States airstrikes have killed at least 4 people in Yemen, Sana'a. The attacks on the capital hit a home and wounded more than 20 other people. U.S. warplanes launched 3 other airstrikes on the Al-Jabal al-Aswad area in the Bani Matar district west of the capital. Thousands of supporters of Jair Bolsonaro hit the streets in Sao Paulo in April 6 for amnesty demands as he faces charges. This comes weeks after the Supreme Court decided he would face trial for allegedly conspiring to overthrow the government after 2022 election defeat. If found guilty in the court proceedings expected later this year, Bolsonaro could face a long prison sentence. Bolsonaro's political allies, including the several state governors, attended the massive rally. The protesters called for amnesty for those imprisoned for the acts of vandalism at the Supreme Court in Jan 2023.
No apartamento aqui em Santo André.
Vai eu de novo, vai eu de novo.
forças para continuar lutando ao lado daqueles.
Israeli protest in front of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence in Jerusalem marked on a Monday, 8.5 since October 7, 2023. Protesters assembled, brandishing signs and shouting the names of the remaining 59 hostages in Gaza, urging government to free them immediately. After a 2-month hiatus, Israel initiated its operations in Gaza with a significant series of airstrikes on March 18th and deployed troops once more. This pause includes the return of 38 hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners and detainees. Since then, protesters in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem have intensified, merging calls for a ceasefire deal to return hostages, end the conflict, and protect democratic institutions. The conflict in Gaza erupted when Hamas militants invaded Israeli communities on October 7, 2023, resulting in 1,200 deaths and capture of over 250 hostages. In the aftermath, Israel has devastated large parts of Gaza and caused the deaths of more than 50,000 Palestinians.
זיו ברמן! הביתה עכשיו! איתי חן! הביתה עכשיו! הביתה עכשיו! אלון אוהב! הביתה עכשיו! בוחבוט! הביתה עכשיו! דרור אור! הביתה עכשיו! חיים אוחנה! הביתה עכשיו! איתן לוי! הביתה עכשיו! הביתה עכשיו!
As Netanyahu set to meet U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House on April 7th, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in Washington, D.C. Netanyahu said on Sunday he hopes Trump will ease tariffs imposed on Israel when the two meet in Washington this week. Under a sweeping new tariff policy announced by Trump, Israeli goods face a 17% U.S. tariff. The U.S. is Israel's closest ally and largest single trading partner. Netanyahu has spent the last few days visiting Hungary, said in a statement that the talks will also cover Israeli hostages still held in Gaza after 18 months, achieving victory in Gaza. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida strongly rejected the U.S. new tariffs on key Japanese exports, asserting that Japan has done nothing unfair. He emphasized Japan's commitment to fair trade and global economic stability. Kishida also unveiled plans for tax cuts aimed at stimulating Japan's economy despite concerns about fiscal impact. He called for dialogue with trading partners, including the U.S., to resolve the trade tensions and maintain mutual prosperity.
Waiting for a long time. So, if you look...
内閣総理大臣。
引き続き我が国に対する関税というものが
So, if you look at that, and then about NAFTA.
アメリカに参りましていろいろな不公正なことはやっていない。
The USA, including currency manipulation and about NAFTA. They were wrong about China inflation and the
石破内閣総理大臣。
引き続き我が国に対する関税というものがこれが引き下げられるということ、そういうことは強く言っていかねばなりませんが、一朝一夕にそれができるとは限りませんので、国内対策というものには万全を期していかねばなりません。
ありますから。
And that's the end of the World 360. Stay tuned to CVR News English.